itself, they have mentioned about the various objectives that they seek to achieve, and has the company been able to do it or not. So it started with Tata Steel or Tisco. When you look at the constitution or constitutional provisions, so 73rd amendment to the Indian constitution, it says the gram sabhas can conduct the social audits, and so far this is the only legislative reference that we have for social audit in India. So, according to that rural, like 100 days employment, so Section 17 of the Act mandates Gram Sabhas to conduct the social audit. Right. So in India, the journey, though it started with Tisco, we don't have any constitutional provisions apart from the 73rd Amendment, which says Gram Sabhas can conduct social audit. Going to my next slide. So these days, ESG has become very popular. So ESG, environmental, social, and governance. Environmental, social, and governance. So these norms, obviously, they expect companies to be socially responsible. So a topic like social audit, it cannot be studied in isolation. There are so many other topics, like I said, CSR, ESG, corporate governance. All these are interlinked with the social audit. So CSR is again in turn interlinked with ESG. So CSR also considers the protection of the interest of the stakeholders. So aligned with all these parameters. So if we want to talk about ESG, maybe we'll need a separate session for it, because all these topics are like oceans. And so my main motive is to go through the basics in each of these. So ESG is also linked to corporate social responsibility, in turn social audit. Now, pandemic and beyond. Now, why social audit suddenly became very important? Maybe we didn't hear it before, or we were not aware of it before, or only professionals were aware of it. But now, right now, social audit everywhere. Why has it become so important? If we look or rewind 2 years back, 2020, the worst crisis or the worst pandemic hit, and it was not restricted to just one region or one country, but the entire world suffered. Could be lockdowns, you could not go anywhere, and people suffering. There was no treatment available, there were no beds available. So the pandemic was the worst crisis that hit us very recently. Now, so during the pandemic, what happened was many companies, they undertook CSR activities. It could be arranging the isolation centers. Whoever was affected with COVID, they need to be isolated, they need to have proper isolation centers. Then similarly, oxygen shortage, so setting up of oxygen plants, and the basic of all, distribution of masks, sanitizers, and of course food to the needy people. So all these activities were taken up by the corporates. So philanthropic activities of the companies, they played a significant role in rebuilding the nation. So though companies work for profits and all, it is situations like the pandemic that make everyone come together, and each one should contribute to the nation. At that time, the scope of CSR increased considerably. So CSR is allowed in various sectors. It could be the health sector, medical or the medical sector. It could be the education sector, all the sectors. But
ओके
how?
मैडम आईटी फाइलें वाला है मैडम आईटी रिटर्न फाइलें दें
Yeah. So During the pandemic, as I told you, philanthropic activities, many companies have taken the philanthropic activities. How did CSR or the scope of CSR increase? When we talk about it, CSR is allowed in various sectors. Pandemic or no pandemic, CSR is allowed. But why pandemic? Why are we stressing on pandemic? So when we say education sector, during the pandemic, because of lockdowns, kids, or rather even we worked from home. The kids, they had to use their mobiles or laptops for accessing the online education. So there were companies which distributed laptops to students, so enabling online learning. So education sector. Similarly, health sector, we said masks, sanitizers, isolation centers, all these were organized, all these were arranged. So in all the sectors, the scope of CSR increased during the pandemic. So whatever it be, at the end of it all, is it actually reaching the people or not? What is the impact that it is making? Suppose I'm sponsoring a midday meal scheme, 100 people. I want to sponsor a midday meal scheme to 100 students. So 100 students, I maybe buy cheap quality rice grains. I cook in very unhygienic conditions and I serve them, and all of them are ill. So is that good? Or just one student, I'm sponsoring him for lifetime, every day he eats healthy food. So that is the measurement. So it is not the quantity that matters, it is the quality. So because of these activities, what is the impact that they have been able to make? So that is nothing but social audit. So when we look at CSR, so earlier CSR was voluntary in the sense that companies, so we spoke about Tatas and all, so they did these activities not because of any legal compulsion, but because of their ethical values. But CSR is based on the policy of CSR is based on the policy of social transformation. So, doing something good to the society. It is based on the philosophy of social transformation, but it should not be taken up merely because the legislation says I have to spend 2% of my profits. I should not be spending the money. It should not be done that way, but only when the corporates feel that they can transform the society, or their bit, their contribution will pave the way for society transformation, only then it can be taken up. Or regulators or investors or the stakeholders, we need to please them, we need to get SOPs from the regulator. So with these agendas in mind, they should not go for CSR. There should be a genuine mindset to help improve lives or to help improve the situation in the country. CSR should not be taken up only for legislative purposes or meeting the targets set by the legislation. There. Now, if we look at it, shift in CSR reporting. So, as we said, CSR was introduced in the New Companies Act or the Companies Act of 2013. So, it said that companies need to spend and they need to just report what they have spent. In case a company is not able to spend, they can explain. If you look at my second point, the reporting was not mandatory, it was based on comply or explain approach. I'm not able to spend the 2% on net profits. I can give any reason whatsoever. We did not find the beneficiaries, or we are located at a very different place, so we don't have people around, or we did not get proper projects. Whatever it is, we could just explain. If they are not able to comply, they'll just have to explain the non-compliance. In the board report, those should be mentioned with reasons as to why they have not spent the required amount. But now, as we said, there has been a shift in CSR reporting. If you don't comply, if the company does not comply, it will have to pay the penalty. So whenever the concept of penalty comes into picture, the companies become very, very responsible, or this makes the companies to be responsible. And there is also something called as impact assessment. So how much impact has the project made? So specified companies, the government would specify, or the provisions would specify, so they need to undertake this impact assessment, and they can't do it themselves, but it should be through an independent agency. If we were to do ourselves, we would say our project is the best and we made the best impact on the society. So there should be an independent agency, and the impact assessment would be undertaken by that independent agency. Now, new rules. Earlier, as we said, CSR, earlier the form was CSR 1, and earlier the policy was comply or explain. So the first thing or the best thing that needs to be done is comply with the rules and comply with the spending. Spend that amount on CSR activities. Otherwise, you will just have to mention in the board report as to why you could not go with the spending. But now CSR2 needs to be filed, detailed report should be given, and as we said, if they are not able to comply, then penalty should be paid. Impact assessment, that is what we spoke about. Impact assessment is required to be done. So again, that should be done by an independent agency. So changes in reporting. So not just this CSR, but now we have business responsibility and sustainability.
Hello, madam, your
Sir,
video was struck. Hello, your audio and video was struck, ma'am. We are not able to hear your voice.
With it. So CSR should be only be for the purpose of social transformation, that is making a difference to the lives of people. Merely for legal compliance or like a token, it should not be done, right? We need some incentives from the regulators, or investors have asked us to do this much, so we need to do. It should not be to please the regulators or the investors. So there should be a genuine concern to help or to improve lives or to make a difference in the lives of people, spanning across various sectors. So CSR is basically based on the philosophy of social transformation. So if we see the shift in CSR reporting, so earlier, if the company would spend the amount, it would be comply, or just explain. It would explain as to why it did not spend. So in the board report, only a mention or only an explanation as to why CSR project couldn't be taken up, or why expenditure could not be made. Only such explanation was there. But now it is comply, that is, you need to, if you are eligible or if you come in the bracket of CSR, spending for CSR, so you need to comply. In case you're not able to comply, you should pay penalty. So whenever the concept of penalty comes, obviously there comes accountability or there comes responsibility. And there is something called as impact assessment. So according to the new rules or according to the amendments, there is a form called CSR2 which needs to be filed. So in the form, a detailed activity or detailed report on all the activities taken up by the company with regards to CSR, that needs to be mentioned. And also an independent agency should conduct an impact assessment. So as to how far the projects were useful or what is the impact created by the projects. Impact assessment, and that has to be done by an independent agency. Now, not just CSR, but non-financial data reporting, it has undergone a paradigm shift. So now business responsibility and sustainability report. So SEBI has now mandated. So SEBI, the Securities and Exchange Board of India, the regulator for capital markets. So it has now mandated new reporting requirements. Obviously, SEBI would mostly deal with listed companies. So that report is named as Business Responsibility and Sustainability Report, the acronym BRSR. So comprehensive framework for non-financial data reporting. For financial data reporting, obviously there are a lot of things, but this is for non-financial data reporting. Now, why this has been done? If you look at my third point, there are some things like Paris Agreement on Climate Change. Now, so we go back to the first point where I said, is profit everything, or we should look at sustainable development? So what happens is when countries are being developed, then there are bound to be carbon emissions, there are bound to be a whole lot of things which will impact the environment, and it would further lead to climate change. Now, we cannot undo all that we have done, but at least we can minimize the negative impact. So there have been many conferences on climate change. There have been so many conferences on sustainable development. So in order to bring our reporting on par with the financial reporting, SEBI has mandated the new reporting requirements, and also Paris Agreement, UN Sustainable Development Goals. They are called as SDGs, and focus of the investors. Even the investors are forcing the companies to go towards sustainable investing or social investing. So, in order to keep pace with the changing tastes of the investors and the changing trends, SEBI has come up with this new mandate. So now reporting requirements for non-financial data reporting, that has also been enhanced, and a comprehensive framework has been made. So as I said, SDGs, so sustainable development goals. So no country should be left behind. So there are 17 what we say sustainable development goals. Of course, I did not mention in my slides because that will become a totally different topic. And as I said, all these topics are closely related to one another. We cannot finish a topic without touching upon all this. So sustainable development goals. So UN has said no country should be left behind. So there should not be poverty. Poverty should be reduced. No one should die of hunger. There should be balanced regional development in the nations, right? So all these are a part of social development or sustainable development goals. So what do these do? They encourage corporates to reduce their negative impacts. It could be carbon emissions, it could be any other negative impact, and enhance their positive contribution to the SDGs. So these state that corporates should have more of a positive impact and reduce their negative impact. Then they are relevant. So it is not that SDGs only for developing nations. the developed countries don't need it. We cannot say like that. These are relevant for every nation and all the communities. Wherever, in whichever nook and corner of the world we are, SDGs are important. And as UN states, no country should be left behind. There should be there should be equality in development. No country should be too much progressed, and no country should be very, like, remain very backward. So with these objectives in mind, SDGs have been conceptualized. Now, coming to the concept of social stock exchange. So, one thing, if we note, CSR is mandated, and CSR is done by specified companies based on their turnover, based on their profits. So, those criterias are there. But generally, philanthropic activities, they are undertaken by Section 8 companies, so not for profit companies. Now, these not for profit companies, can they list on the stock exchange, or for that matter, how do they get their funds? How do they get their funds? Is it easy to get the funds? And hence, the concept of social stock exchange, or it is called as SSE, was mooted. So when was it introduced? Union Finance Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitaraman, in her budget speech way back in 2019-20, she has introduced, or she has mooted, the idea of social stock exchange. So what do these SSCs do? If you look at my third point, they are expected to play a major role in bridging the funding gap faced by social enterprises. So, many enterprises might want to do philanthropic activities, help others, help the society, but they might not have the resources with them, or they might not have the financial ability. So, SSCs, they would play a major role in bridging the funding gap, in creating and achieving the projected social impact. So, SEBI, so who should conduct the social audit? The social enterprises which are raising funds, they have to take up social audit. This has been mandated by SEBI. So, what is social stock exchange? Listing of non-profit entities or non-profit enterprises. So, Section 8 companies which are into some charitable activities on the NSC or the BSC. This social stock exchange would assist those enterprises to raise money. Obviously, when companies are listed on the stock exchange, it attracts more funds. Similarly, social stock exchange assists the social enterprises to raise money. Now, SEBI has mooted these ideas. So, SEBI has constituted two groups, working group and a technical group. So, how is this SSC going to work? What are the various implications? Is it able to work or not? So, two working groups have been constituted by SEBI. So, what are they? Working group and technical group, and these groups have given certain recommendations. Working group said that new institutions should be developed. New institutions, it could be social auditor, right? Who are social auditors? The experts who conduct the social audit. So the working groups have given that recommendation. Technical group said that social audit should again be divided into financial audit and non-financial audit. So though it is social audit, again you have with respect to money and also with respect to the impact created by the projects. So these are the recommendations which the working group and technical group had given. Then social stock exchange and its impact. So SEBI has given a draft report, and it says that social stock exchange, these SSCs will be more helpful in rebuilding the livelihoods of people who have been affected during the pandemic or such situations, such crisis like situations. So who can be the participants to social stock exchange? Individuals, then again philanthropic foundations, corporates, those who need to spend money on CSR activities, similarly government organizations, banks, NBFCs, then social venture fund category 1, similarly risk investors and mutual funds. So SEBI has given a draft report and it said these people or these participants who can be the participants to the social stock exchange, and it is expected that such a stock exchange will be very helpful in rebuilding the lives of the people following the pandemic. There. Similarly, when we are talking about the regulations and rules, what are the activities which need to be disclosed? We just saw CSR activities need to be disclosed. Similarly, SEBI had come up with LODR regulations. So listing obligations and disclosure requirements where listed companies, what are the things they need to follow? What are the disclosures they need to make? So here LODR. These regulations also provide for social audit of the annual impact report. So a social audit should be conducted of the annual impact report. It is called as AIR, that a social enterprise is required to submit to the SSC. So if it is a not-for-profit organization, then it should submit this report to the SSC. If it is a for-profit organization, it will submit the report to the ordinary stock exchange. So LODR regulations, they provide for both non-profit organizations or not-for-profit organizations as well as for-profit organizations. In case it is an NPO, then the annual impact report needs to be audited and it should be submitted to the SSC or the social stock exchange. Whereas if it is a for-profit organization, then it can be submitted to the ordinary stock exchange. Then annual impact report, we said it should be audited. So these regulations also say that they will be audited by a social audit firm or by a social auditor. So we will have new branch of professionals called as the social auditors. They will extensively take up the work of assessing the impact created by the social activities. So social audit firm and social auditor, they are the new authorities or they are the new professionals or the bodies that will come into picture once social audit is taken up. Self-regulatory organizations. So here, your institute, I'm sure you people will be able to guide me better on this. Institute of Chartered Accountants of India will have a very big role, and they say that the framework for social audit, right? So SRO should be a very essential component or a key component. And what will be the duty of the SRO, self-regulatory organizations? So we said there will be a new branch of professionals called as the social auditors. So this SRO will empanel the social auditors or register the social auditors. So SRO is a key component of the ecosystem concerning the framework for social audit, and one of the important functions of the SRO will be to empanel the social auditors. So as I have already stated, your institute has a very, very big role to play here with regards to self-regulatory organizations, also with regard to social audit as such. So guidelines and auditing standards. So just now I was talking about your institute. ICAI. So when we think of audit, we think of chartered accountants. So am I right? Maybe you can just type your answers in the chat box. So can anyone do audit better than CAs? Or when we say, yeah, so obviously your institute is the pioneer in auditing. So any standards that have to be set, that will be given by your institute, and the same goes for social audit as well. So technical guide and also ICAI came up with the technical guide and also draft social auditing standards, also with draft social auditing standards as to how social enterprises audit should be conducted. So as per this draft which is shared by ICAI, there are 5 elements of a social audit engagement. So let us see what the 5 elements of the social audit engagement are. So we'll have to see three-party relationship, social auditor, a responsible party, intended users. So social auditor, we have already discussed, it's a new branch of professionals. So they are there to assess the impact created by the social projects. Then responsible party. So which is the company which is into the CSR or which is into these social projects, and the intended users. Obviously, when I start a midday meal scheme, people can't come and ask me, are you satisfied with it? I'll obviously say I'm satisfied, right? The beneficiaries should be asked, or the intended users, are you satisfied with the food? So there should be a three-party relationship involving social auditor, responsible party, and obviously the beneficiaries or intended users. What is the project which is to be covered? What is the project or the program? Like in my example, I just said midday meal scheme. So that is the project which needs to be covered. And what is the monitoring framework? How it is going to be monitored? That should be a key element, right? So midday meal scheme, like how many people or how many students have eaten, right? So how do you want to monitor that project? And evidence, obviously what is the proof that we have carried on that project? So obviously the money which is involved, right? So that will act as evidence that indeed, yes, I have taken up this project and I have spent my funds on it. And obviously, will any audit not have an audit report? Yes. Do we say auditing is complete without audit report? Yes, everyone. I would want to know from you. Yeah. So audit report should be there. Only then we can say that audit is completed. So a written audit report is essential. So here your institute, that is ICAI, has come out with draft social auditing standards. Right? So how the social audit has to be performed, or how the audit of social enterprises should be performed, and they have given 5 elements of social audit engagement. So these need to be followed. So as per the auditing standard set up by Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Now, so audit standards, like as I already told you before, think of audit, we think of ICAI, because they are, or you are, I should say, you are pioneers in audit. So any audit standard will be set up by ICAI. So as such, social auditing standards have also been set up by ICAI. Then, contributing to the initiatives of SEBI. So, we just spoke about social stock exchange. So, this social stock exchange helps the not-for-profit organizations to raise money, and they can be listed on the BSE or NSE. So they help bridge the gap between funding. So they may have the mindset, or they may have the ideas and potential to do a lot of projects which will benefit the society, but it is the funds. If they are not able to get the funds, then they cannot undertake all those projects. So it is important for them to raise money, and that's the reason the concept of social stock exchange was mooted, and obviously guidelines and all have been given. So these social stock exchanges, they help in funding money, so bridging the gap between planning and execution. So SEBI has created a mandate for social stock exchanges. Now ICAI is developing social audit standards. So as we said, social audit, what should be the standards and what are the different elements of a social audit, ICAI has already taken up, and working on certification course for social auditors. So now the new thing, maybe after the pandemic, when every company has taken up these philanthropic activities, social auditor becomes a very popular profession or a very in thing to do. So ICAI, your institute, is developing or working on these courses also for social auditors. Now, Government of India. So, as I said, climate change. So, we keep seeing climate change is real. Yes, yes, everyone. Yeah. So, So maybe if it was an offline thing, then definitely I would have interacted with you more. But since it's a virtual program, I'm not able to interact more with you people, right? But whenever I ask a question, please try and type in your chat box. Yeah, that would make it a little more interactive rather than I understand concepts. They are, I mean, one whole day, not just 2 hours or 3 hours, one whole day will not be sufficient to cover them. So, for that reason, I'm just giving glimpses of it, or I'm just giving some parts of it, trying to concentrate or focus on the basics. But I expect participation from you people. So, I don't expect all of you to unmute and shout the answers or shout whatever you know, but then maybe type in the chat box, that would make it interactive. Just a small request to you all. As I said, if it was an offline program, we would have definitely interacted more and the session would have been more lively. But what I suggest, or what I want is, just type in the answers or type in like whatever I ask, so that it can make it more two-sided communication rather than just one side. Okay, Uma. So, okay, you're talking about the disasters that can actually happen. Yeah, okay. So, climate change is real. Like, suppose our parents' generation and all, they would say we never had rains in December. Suddenly it starts raining in December, and they are like, never did we have rains in December. We have been staying in Hyderabad. Of course, like in whichever part of the country you are. So we are staying somewhere, we didn't have rains all through. It's only in this year that there are rains in December. We keep hearing such things. Yes? Yeah. So we keep hearing such things. And climate change. So when UN says climate change and all say climate change, we think maybe it will happen later, not today. But when we are actually seeing flood somewhere, famine somewhere, and unusual rain somewhere, we have to start believing, yes, climate change is real. And that's the reason we have all these forums, or all these like sustainable development goals, or climate change, Paris conference on climate change. So all these are happening, and government is taking initiatives to tackle all these problems. So when we say government, it encourages corporates to do so. And when corporates are involved in such activities, obviously social audit becomes essential, right? Proactive steps towards sustainable and inclusive growth with a focus on climate change. So audit standards, they are being set up by ICAI, and also social auditors. So how do you become a social auditor? Is there any course? Yes, ICAI is developing a certification or working on a certification course. And when you look at the government, it is taking proactive steps towards sustainable and inclusive growth. So very earlier itself, at the beginning of the session itself, we said that profit development, right? I mean, it should not be at the cost of future generations. And do you people remember the three P's which sustainable development focuses on? Anyone? Yes? Yes? Anyone remembers what are the three P's when we talk about? Okay, let me see. Right? Yes, Gagan Mittal, Simi Huja. Yes. People, profit, planet. Yes. Yeah. So the three P's. So others, you don't want to answer, or anyway, the answer is there. So why take the pain and time? Yeah. Okay. Desha. Yeah. Fine. So the three P's, obviously profit, people, and the planet. So every organization works for profits. Obviously, if salary is not paid, or if money is not paid, if you are in practice, the client doesn't pay you. So would you take up that project, or would you take up that assignment? Definitely no. So profit is definitely important for any organization. At the same time, people, the stakeholders are also very, very important. And planet. So we keep hearing there is no planet B. There can be a plan B, but there is no planet B. Yes. So all these are given in order to help tackle the climate change, right? So climate change is real, and so the government is taking steps. Inclusive growth. Again, there should be development, there should be growth. We are not saying that we'll focus only on minimizing the pollution, we'll only focus on people or the stakeholders. So they should go hand in hand together. It should be inclusive growth, there should be development, and there should be a focus on tackling the climate change and more such issues. As I told you, SDG, or the Sustainable Development Goals, there are 17 in number. Of course, I did not highlight them, but the key funda of those is that there should be no inequalities. It could be eradication of poverty, that is, everyone like should be on the equal level, all the countries, and no country should be left behind. So if we see social audit, CSR ad audit, is it compulsory? Yes, is it compulsory? Right. So social audit is not compulsory. I am getting more answers. Yeah. Thank you all to you paid heed to my request. Yes. Now it looks interactive. Thank you all. So yes, no requirement for social audit, CSR audit. Company may voluntarily choose to have the social auditing done, right? So it is upon the companies to either go for it or not. But a company which is responsible, will it go for social audit? A company which is responsible, something like the Tatas, do they go for social audit? Yes, right. So it depends upon the company. There is no mandatory requirement for social audit or CSR audit. The company may voluntarily choose to have the social auditing or CSR auditing process put in place. Yes, Uma, you're absolutely right. When we talk of, like I said, when we talk of auditing, we think of ICAI. When we think of CSR, we think of Tata. Yes? Right. So Tatas, yes, they are the pioneers of CSR. So whatever Tata does, it was not for profit or it was not to please the regulators, but because they wanted to make an impact on the society. Right? So they say that how can the process be put in place? Either internally, you can have some companies' employees or from an expert from outside. So what is better, engaging your own employees or getting an expert from outside for audit? What is better according to you people? Okay, expert from outside, expert mix of both. Yeah, there should be some employees, there should be an expert, right? Independent person. Generally, independent or expert is preferred because when you are an internal person, there could be a chance of fraud, there could be a chance of something like window dressing. Of course, I shouldn't be using that term over here, right? So, expert can be preferred. Yes. Yes, Ramani, conflict of interest. Yeah, there could be a conflict of interest because I may be an employee and I'm asked to conduct this audit or perform this audit. I would want to please my bosses or I would know some internal information. Yeah, there could be a collusion. So, as a result, the internal might not work so much. But CSR itself is based on trust. Yes. So when we can't trust our own employees, can we trust anyone else? Yeah. CSR itself means you're not cheating, you're doing something good for the society. And in that, if you want to cheat, is there any purpose of CSR at all? Right. Okay. I just got an interesting answer. Difficult to value the impact. Yes. Right. So, for that reason, like some of you have said, there could be a mix of both expert from outside, also the company's employees, right? So expert may not be knowing the internal matters, so the employees may throw light on it. And since he has expertise in this field, he can go about his work, right? So there are both pros and cons. So you can either take the internal employees or external, or have a mix of both. Now, what is social audit? Social audit would be a tool. So if it is done properly, anything if done properly, only then it would benefit. Yes, otherwise what happens? We heard this saying, bad carpenter blames his tools. So he'll not say that my expertise is not good. He will say that the tools are not good. Yes? Right. So here, if we just see, so we should make, in order to make social audit effective, so it should be like a tool which through which the companies can plan, measure, manage the CSR activities and sponsored social development projects, right? So it should look like a tool, only then it is going to benefit. If we just take it very lightly, so what is social audit? We need to know the impact of the projects on the society. Are they making any impact or not? And so far, I mean, in case of impact, how far it is making an impact on the society, whether a positive impact or negative impact, right? So that is the essence of social audit there. If we see social audit, the word is very fancy to say I'm a social auditor when it is very new. Yes, social audit, or I'm a social auditor, to say that it looks fancy, it's a new thing to do, or something like social entrepreneurship. We all heard, right? Social entrepreneurship. Yeah, it looks like new thing, right? It definitely looks like new thing. Even social entrepreneurship, when you say you have set up a company like a social enterprise, or which should benefit the society. So social entrepreneurship, social audit, or something like green accounting, right? All these are fancy terms, or for that matter, even CSR, corporate social responsibility. It looks very big, it looks very fancy, right? But should it just remain like that on paper? Right. Yes. Akash, you're absolutely right. The scope for professionals. So, along with all this social audit and all, when all these are coming up, professionals will have different work to do. That is, we can expand our scope of work by venturing into these fields, right? Carbon credit. So, Ramani, it's a very good doubt. But then, when we talk about, as I told you, when we take any topic, it is like an ocean. So, carbon credit and all, one thing we need to understand, India is still a developing nation. Yes? Or do we count as India as developed? Yeah, it is still developing. So when this carbon credit and all they count is when the emissions are a little less. But as a developing nation, can we do without emissions? See, it is a totally different topic, and so I'm not going into it. No problem, no problem. It is indeed a genuine thing. But what I thought, yes, as I told you, my topic, it is related to many other things. But we cannot delve into all of it given the time and also given the topic which I have chosen. With proper standard, it will benefit the society, yes, but there should be a proper standard, or there should be a proper framework, right? So all of us might have plans, right? So this is what I keep telling my students, that all of us plan, we want to get very good marks, but will that be sufficient to get good marks? No. So what should be done? Like, we should diligently focus on our timetable. When do we get up? What do we read today? What do we read tomorrow? What do we do day after tomorrow? So there should be proper execution, or there should be a proper implementation. So only with a proper framework, social audit will become very beneficial for the society, help build a better nation. As I told you, like the COVID-19, it was a pandemic and it was a quite challenging situation. Yes, proper execution, updation, and implementation. Yes, I agree with your words. So during the pandemic, as I said, we faced many challenges, maybe with regard to people or kids not going to schools, colleges, lockdowns, or with respect to availability of food or availability of beds in the hospital and all. So these CSR activities, they helped a lot of people. So what is the impact of it, right? If it is assessed, corrective measures may be taken. So all these have been done. We can do a lot more by having a proper framework, because in such activities, accountability, that is what is the impact I made on society, that is more important even than even the execution. Yes. So can companies say, yes, we have implemented the projects, the story is over now? Yes, everyone.
No,
No.
ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. So the companies cannot say like that. They need to be accountable. Like I said, CSR rules have been changed. So there should be a proper impact assessment. And again, that comes into the ambit of social audit. Impact to be sustainable. Yes, Uma. Right? So social audit is all about measuring the impact of the activities of the CSR of the company. So whatever projects they have undertaken, are they able to fulfill the expectations of all the stakeholders? Are they being beneficial to all the stakeholders? What more can be done? Measuring, verifying, and then in case any discrepancy is there, that should be corrected. Right, everyone? Right. So this is all about social audit. So I have tried to talk about the basic concepts and all the concepts which are related to social audit. So social audit, yes, it is very important, though now it is only voluntary, but it has to be mandated and it has to be done. There should be a compulsory social audit so that there will be accountability on the part of the corporate, and how the impact is there, that can be measured, and of course the audit standards are also being given. So they are being given by ICAI, and hence social audit has to be done so as to measure the impact of the activities on the society or all on the stakeholders. Can I share the PPT? Maybe we should ask Bhargavi ma'am if, I mean,
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
okay.
You can
So
share
can
the
you,
PPT online.
okay, okay. Ramani, please drop your mail ID so that I can,
Actually, the PPT will be shared by the branch, ma'am.
yeah,
To
okay,
all the mail IDs available.
right.
So we'll make sure that the PPT is shared to everyone. But
Okay,
despite of that, someone has asked you personally, you can share with them.
definitely. Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Ramani, I think you'll be receiving the PPT from the chapter. Fine, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I conclude my session with this. So thank you, everyone. Though there have been technical glitches and also my baby, I had to take a break. You all were very patient. Thank you, everyone. And it feels good to address all of you today on this topic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Namita madam. It was such a very nice presentation, and you have done extremely well. So mostly the chartered accountants who are not into this secretarial practice have learned a lot about this social audit and CSR activities and relating provisions. That was such a nice presentation, and we wish to see you in future personally at our branch to share your knowledge regarding Companies Act and all. Thank you, dear members. Thank you all for your patience listening. You have been very patient enough despite of all the technical glitches and breaks. Thank you so much. And due to madam's personal responsibilities, we are winding up the session by 7 o'clock itself. We are sorry for that. And but despite of that, she has shared everything with you. So yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you.